So, welcome back. This is the 71st segment of Making Sense for 7 Minutes, and it is the first of 25 segments where we're going to take a hard look at evil and suffering. Now, these two issues, evil and suffering, are inescapable for all of us. These issues of evil and suffering are inescapable. But they're more than inescapable issues. They are inescapable realities for all of us. All of us are surrounded by evil. All of us are surrounded by suffering. All of us have to deal in a variety of ways, continually, daily, throughout all of life, evil and suffering. So, all of this becomes huge, and it becomes deep, and it becomes very personal, and it is very constant. So, we want to recognize the fact that with evil and suffering come questions. And included in these questions, but certainly not exhaustive, are how do we understand what evil is? How do we understand what suffering is? Where does God fit into this picture? Does he fit in at all? How are we to respond to evil and suffering, both when we are caught up in the struggles and when others around us and the people that we love are caught up in those struggles? So, this time out in the subsequent 24 segments, these are some of the questions and a number of others that we're going to try to address. So, first of all, let's begin with the fact that there is a distinction as well as a relationship between evil and suffering. Not all suffering is a result of evil, but evil will always result in suffering. Evil always causes suffering, but not all suffering is a result of evil. So perhaps it's at this point where we need to come up with some definitions. Let's take suffering first. The source of suffering is that which causes harm, pain, misery, disaster, and the like. Now, you and I are going to experience suffering either in the physical body experience or from nature. Now, here's what I mean by that, okay? All of suffering is either going to come from our physical sickness or mental illness. In my case, it's been mostly mental illness, dealing with depression. Or it's going to come from the outside, from nature, if you will, some natural disaster such as a tornado or a hurricane or a flood or an earthquake, or the death, the loss of someone that we love. So from the natural world. Now, there is another cause for suffering, and that is evil. Now, a definition of evil, a working definition of evil, is that it is something that is morally bad or wrong. It is depravity. It is sin. And by definition, evil will always have a moral component to it. A philosopher and all-around really smart man, Peter Kreeft, wrote, things are not evil of themselves. A sword is not evil. Even the stroke of the sword that chops off your head is not evil in its being. In fact, unless it is a good stroke, it will not chop your head off. Where is the evil? It is the will, the choice, the intent, the movement of the soul, which puts a wrong order into the physical world of things. Evil is always perpetrated by an immoral action of others or ourselves. So, we want to take these understandings, take these definitions, and then explore how do we understand, how do we deal with, how do we respond to evil and suffering. So we're off to something of a start. Thanks, y'all.